Just one day after the International Court of Justice has decided that it is plausible that Israel is or has committed genocide in the Gaza Strip, you had several major countries like the United States, Germany, Britain, and others who have opposed the ICJ ruling, fiercely so, have decided to cut any funding that they give to the largest UN agency that is responsible for the Palestinian refugees in Gaza and elsewhere. That is UNRWA. Of course, there is a clear relationship between both of these decisions, the ICJ ruling and the cutting of funds to UNRWA, because UNRWA pretty much is the only lifeline that is left to a refugee population in Gaza that is suffering from famine and is already suffering from an Israeli genocide. I mean, imagine how cruel. I mean, really, the word cruel doesn't even begin to describe what has just happened. Is that the highest court in the world decide that there is a possible genocide being committed at the moment, and then the US, with its lackeys, with its European pathetic lackeys, decide, you know what, let's cut them off from any support. Let them starve as a punishment to the ICJ, which is a Western established court. Let's use this as an opportunity to punish them and to cut off UNRWA, which is also a Western established and supported and financed and sustained organization. This is not about UNRWA. The allegation is that 12 UNRWA employees, according to Israel, of course, have somehow participated in the October 7 attack. Of course, if we are to believe that Israel is telling the truth, and Israel hasn't told much truth since the whole thing started, but even if we are to believe that this is the case, UNRWA is one of the largest employers of Palestinian refugees anywhere, not just in Gaza, the West Bank, but also South Lebanon and other parts of the Middle East. There are thousands of people who work for UNRWA. So if you indeed manage to find that there are few people who may or may have not had any connections to the October 7 attack, it's just not enough for you to punish millions of refugees and thousands of UNRWA workers and to try to shut it down now. When people are literally eating stray cats and dogs and they are dying from hunger. The brutality of the Western logic is just unfathomable, even for someone like me who has dedicated his entire study of history to report on the brutality of the West. But this is beyond anything that we have ever seen in the history of the West relationship with the Middle East in modern history. So there's another thing that is worth mentioning here, and that is America's war on UNRWA started many years ago. Remember Jared Kushner, that weird robotic figure, the son-in-law of Trump? He has dedicated much of his time trying to shut down UNRWA, because in his mind, you shut down UNRWA, you take away one of the main legal foundations of the very category that there is a group of people called Palestinian refugees. Even according to Haaretz and other American and Israeli newspapers, he went to Jordan and he met with Jordanian officials, possibly the king of Jordan himself, and he tried to bribe him to change the status of Palestinian refugees in Jordan, make them Jordanian citizens, whatever you do, but don't call them refugees anymore. Because if you take that million or two or more Palestinian refugees in Jordan and call them something else, then we have a much lesser of a problem that we are dealing with. He wanted to do the same thing in Lebanon and elsewhere. It's not about UNRWA as an organization. It's not about what do they do exactly and if any of their members anywhere in the world is affiliated with a group that might be considered terrorist from Israel's point of view. It's about something bigger. It's about the refugees themselves. And this is one of the last victories Netanyahu is trying to establish in Gaza. He has failed militarily. He has failed politically. He has failed strategically. He has failed in every possible way. And this is one last attempt. Maybe I can leave this war shutting down UNRWA. And by doing so, I can tell my people, listen, these are the biggest advocates for Palestinian refugees, and they have been shut down. Therefore, I still got it. I am still the king. Hail me because I have succeeded in achieving something. So this is much bigger than October 7, and it's much earlier than October 7. But again, really, again and again and again, the ICJ made its decision on a Friday. The Americans and their pathetic lackeys in Europe followed them exactly on Saturday, few hours later. And they said, oh, so the ICJ thinks that there's a genocide in Gaza? No problem. Let's worsen the genocide in Gaza. Let's starve the Palestinians. Let's make the existing famine even much worse.